James chapter 1, verses 2 through verse 4 reads, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let the steadfastness have its full effort, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." I want you to take just a minute and look at the picture that's on the screen. What do you feel when you see this? Have you been here? When you look at that picture, can you feel the emotion that the picture visualizes? I guess, depending on your age, it can represent many different things. Just like a child could feel this emotion when you take away a toy or they don't get their way. And maybe as a teenager looking through their eyes, they could feel this emotion out of being betrayed or bullied by a close friend or a friend group. Or maybe for a college student, it might be the ending of a serious relationship. But for an adult, it might mean the loss of a child, born or unborn, a cancer diagnosis, loss of a parent, the ultimate loss of a spouse, or the untimely loss of a spouse, or the breaking up of a marriage and family. For me, this shows the feeling of helplessness, brokenness, not understanding, defeat, and not knowing what to do. It's said that either you are currently going through the storm, or you're coming through the storm, or there's a storm on the horizon. We're badly misinformed to believe that because we're Christians, we don't deserve or somehow not subject to or protected from the storms of life. We're like everyone else, except we're to use the storms to see how God uses a storm to develop our faith and trust, as well as having an impact on others. Who are some of the examples in the Bible that we can look to that went through some of the storms? Well, my favorite is Joseph. Joseph spent most of his life working in a plan that God had, and you know that the circumstances that Joseph was put in, from being thrown in the pit and being betrayed by his brothers, and years of going through being betrayed by an employer and being put in prison, and ultimately to see the end where God used him to save his people. David, as a result of his sin with Bathsheba, had a son that he wept over, and because of that son was sick and ended up dying. And we all know Job, everything that happened to Job and what he had to withstand in order to show what steadfastness is in dealing with tragedy. If we're students of the Bible, we should not be relying on what we're told or what we hear, but be truly students. We will have a better understanding when the storms come. You know, it reminds me of a time when I was talking to someone who was currently going through their storm, bringing up the story of Joseph, and this person had professed to be a Christian and really didn't know the story. So I've never understood how we can not go to the Old Testament, read the Old Testament, and find out the lives of those that underwent these storms, and figure out how God worked through their lives so that we can apply it to our own lives. You know, and it's just like natural disasters, whether it be tornadoes, floods, or hurricanes. We've got to be prepared. We've got to take the necessary steps in order to be able to survive those things. And if we do not prepare, we suffer. Preparation for these storms, from our own understanding, we get preparations for the storms that come in our lives from reading God's Word and what He's provided in the greatest book that's ever been written. The samurai sword is heated and hammered and folded over and over and over again in order to make a sharp, formidable weapon. The diamond undergoes years and years and years of pressure in order to become what it is. The storms call for perseverance, to keep pushing forward, one step in front of the other, the endurance and faith to know you will come out on the other side. As I said, Joseph did this, one of my favorite stories in the Bible. You know, he only at the end of the storm could look back and say, God had a plan. He used him to save his people. Romans 8:28 reads, and we know all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. If you're in the midst of the storm, there are probably folks sitting around you right now that has weathered the same storm. And even when you're in the midst and you think you just can't take it anymore, you have to keep pushing forward. Sometimes words can't help, but knowing you're not alone can be just the encouragement you need to keep going. If you're dealing with things that just seem to be too much and struggling, we're here to help. These elders are our shepherds, and when one of the sheep is sick, they want to help. We want to help so that no one here has to walk alone. We always offer the invitation for those who've not put on Christ in baptism and desire to do so. And the message is simple. Jesus came to this earth and he lived a perfect life to be offered as a sacrifice, taking on our sin, being buried, and raised from the dead so that we can live with him eternally. Also, if your storm is raging and you're not comfortable in bringing it before the church, don't walk alone. Reach out to the elders, their wives, me, or whomever you feel comfortable with, so that you do not have to walk alone. If there's any need at this time, please stand while we sing.